EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and these are the 10 best commanders from Brothers War. In my humble opinion, these are the 10 best that I picked. Usually for me, it is more about interesting build around than it is power level, although I think power level played into it a little bit here as well. So I guess I do err a little bit on the side of how popular these commanders are going to be. All in all, I thought this was a decent set for commanders. We do have some pretty good ones that I think are going to be popular in the format. Don't think we're making a huge impact on the format here with these legendary creatures, but there are going to be some from this set that I think are going to be really popular. So we're going to start out with an honorable mention, Liberator Urza's Battle Thopter, 3 mana, legendary artifact creature Thopter, 1/2, has flash, has flying. You may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash, and whenever you cast a spell, if the amount of mana spent to cast that spell is greater than Liberator's power, put a +1/+1 counter on Liberator. Pretty good colorless commander. In fact, I think this might be the best colorless commander we have now. I know some people like the Eldrazi, though they tend to be really expensive, so you're not doing a whole bunch with those decks. In the beginning, a lot of times when I play against those Eldrazi commanders, they spend like the first 5 or 6 turns just playing mana rocks, and if someone casts a Vandal Blast or something, it's just a complete blowout and they don't end up doing much. I like this one a lot. It's very open-ended. First of all, you may cast colorless spells and artifact spells as though they had flash. That works with everything that you're doing in the deck, because of course your whole deck is going to be colorless and artifact spells. And then on top of that, you have that other little ability tacked on there as well, so you can do a little bit of a Voltron theme. It's not the best commander in the world, but I think for me it's probably the best colorless commander we got now. All right, coming in at number 10, Lauren of the Third Path, 2 and a white, human artificer, 2/1 with vigilance. When Lauren of the Third Path enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment, and you can tap her. You and target opponent each draw a card. So I love everything that's going on this card, and when I talked about this in my spoiler video, I said, wow, this is a card that is going to go in the 99 of a ton of decks. I have 2 mono white decks. This is going to go in both of them. It is just a better Reclamation Sage, right? If you have a white-green deck that has a Reclamation Sage in it, you're probably just going to swap out Lauren for your Reclamation Sage, because this is doing everything that card is doing and then a whole lot more as well. So a phenomenal 99 card. Now, however, we're talking about commanders here. So as a commander, everything still kind of applies, right? I have a commander with an artifact or enchantment removal option stapled on it. That's fantastic. And then I have that really neat ability where I can have an opponent draw a card and I get to as well. So I have removal and card draw stapled on my commander. That's great. There also is the bit of a politics option here as well. I like everything that's going on in this card. As a build around, it's very open-ended. There's a lot of different directions you could go with it. You could do a straight up politics sort of theme with this. You could do a blink strategy because your commander has a great ETB. I think this is a fantastic commander. Coming in at number 9, Queen Kayla bin-Krug, 1 red and a white, human noble, 2/3. Pay 4 and tap, discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. You may choose an artifact or creature card with mana value 1 you discarded this way. Then do the same for artifact or creature cards with mana value 2 and 3. Return those cards to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. That is a really powerful ability. You're recurring a whole bunch of stuff, sort of. I mean, it's the stuff that you discarded. It is actually hitting the graveyard, so that can be significant. I had talked about how this commander is very weird as a Boros commander, though I guess it does sort of fit Boros. Discarding and then drawing is a red thing for sure. Sort of the artifact creature recursion in low mana values is also a red and white thing. So I guess it does fit Boros at the end of the day. What I don't like about the ability is you have to discard all the cards in your hand, so you don't really have an option to keep some. It is a 4 mana ability that you also have to tap your commander, which isn't super fantastic, so you're not going to be doing this effect a lot, I don't think, but I like how open-ended it is. Again, you can do a lot here. You can do an artifact theme, you can do creature theme. You're obviously in a discard theme, so all of the discard tribal stuff like Surly Badgesaur and Browlin is going to fit here as well, because you're doing a lot of that. I think this is a pretty good commander, and I also think it's going to be a popular one in the format. Coming in at number 8, Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, 1 black, Phyrexian Praetor, 3/3. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. And you can pay 4 black, 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 discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among the cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. So first of all, I just love this card in general because it is Gix. It's a card I've been waiting for since I first started playing Magic. I love the art on it. It's fantastic. It's just a really neat card. I again think you could probably put this in a 99 of a lot of decks. Both abilities are just good abilities that you can use all the time. The first ability is really important because, of course, it's anyone attacking any of your opponents, so it encourages your opponents to attack each other, which is great. You can more build around that theme if you want to. Of course, you can use that first ability as well. You can put a lot of little creatures in your deck, maybe creatures that are hard to block, so that you can be getting in for damage all the time and then drawing cards. I think probably likely people will more so be building around that last ability. It's a big one. Obviously, the comparison here is to Villainous Wealth, a card that since I first started playing Commander, people have been building their decks around that card. That's a sorcery in the 99, a lot harder to do. Here you're doing a very similar thing, but it's your Commander, so you don't have to worry about getting your hands on it. It's 7 mana, so if I'm going to discard X cards, I want to make sure it's at least 7 for me. That would be the floor for this ability. I am spending all of that mana, so I want to make sure I get enough value out of it. Don't play your land for turn before you activate this ability, I don't think, because you want to be able to hit that land drop off of the one you get from your opponent's library. Again, we're in the discard theme as well, so there's a lot of great mono black discard effects that can go in here because you'll be doing some of that as well. I think it's a pretty good one. You could build around that first ability or more so build around that second ability. Both are pretty good. Coming in at number 7, Farid, Enterprising Salvager. 2 and a red human soldier 3/3. Whenever a non-token artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a colorless artifact token named Scrap. And it is very important to note, as I sort of discovered in the spoiler video that I did for this, those scrap tokens don't actually do anything. It is just literally a scrap of metal sitting on the table that you can do other things with. It is just a colorless artifact named Scrap that does absolutely nothing. But of course, you can use it with your commander's second ability. Pay 1 and a red, sacrifice an artifact, choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on Farid. It gains menace until end of turn. You can go target creature, or you can discard a card, then draw a card. I really like this commander. I got super excited about it as I was talking about it in that spoiler video. This is one that I think I'm absolutely going to end up building a deck around and putting it on my channel, so stay tuned for that. I just think there's a lot of neat things you can do here. There is a lot of support in mono red for the artifact sacrifice and also artifact recursion theme. We also have 3 really interesting abilities here. You can use obviously 2 or 3 of these in a single turn if you want to. There's no limit there. All you need is the 1 and a red and an artifact to sacrifice. Your commander gives you incredible value, of course, because you can sacrifice an artifact you have in play, a non-token artifact. When it goes to the graveyard, you will then get a scrap token that you can then sacrifice that as well, right? So it's very easy to use this ability a whole bunch in a turn. We can do a little bit of a Voltron strategy here because we're putting counters on our commander. Goading creatures is always handy. And then, of course, once again, we're in the discard theme. So any of that discard support in mono red will fit here as well. I think this is a pretty great commander. Coming in at number 6, Tawnos the Toymaker. 3 green and a blue human artificer 3/5. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it, except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. So I made the comparison to Volo. Volo's obviously a very popular commander in the format. They're sort of on opposite ends of the spectrum though, where Volo, you're doing sort of the anti-tribal theme where you don't want creatures of the same tribe. Here you're doing something similar, but you want to be doing beasts or birds. And as again, I talked about in the spoiler video, I think you probably want to choose one. I like that you can do both. That's great. But if you just choose beasts, now you can do other beast tribal stuff. And if you just choose birds, now you can do all the bird tribal stuff that is out there. And also maybe flying tribal stuff as well, because probably all your creatures are going to have flying, right? You're making tokens. The tokens are artifacts. So there's some stuff you can play around with there. I think even though it might not look like there's a lot going on here, I think there's a lot of different directions you can go with this commander. And it certainly is a unique one. I think it's going to to be a popular one for sure. Coming in at number 5, Mishra, tamer of fawa. 3 black and a red, human artificer, 4/4. Permanents you control have ward, sacrifice a permanent. That's a pretty fantastic ability to have on your commander. Each artifact card in your graveyard has unearth 1 black and a red. Also a phenomenal ability. So that first ability, you're not going to be building around it. It's just a phenomenal thing to have all of your permanents. If they get targeted by your opponents, they have to sacrifice a permanent first, or else that ability or spell will get countered. That's amazing. I would love to have that on my commander, or just have that ability in general applied to all my permanents. You could build almost any deck with this guy in Rakdos colors, and just, I'm going to use Mishra as my commander just because I have that sort of pseudo protection over my stuff. But of course, if you're going to build this deck, you're probably going to build around that last ability. Having artifact cards in your graveyard have unearth is great. A lot you can do with that. Obviously, you can do artifact creatures, or you can just do non-creature artifacts as well. In general, I was much more impressed with the Mishras from this set than the Urzas. As you'll see, I have a couple of Mishras on this list, no Urzas at all. I didn't think the Urzas were particularly good. They were all focused too much on artifact creature tribal, which isn't a great theme to build around, I don't think. This commander, on the other hand, is a fantastic one. Coming in at number 4, Mural, Shield of Argive. 3 and a white human soldier, 3/4. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Again, just a phenomenal ability to have stapled on your commander that you're always going to want in every commander game. It's a Grand Abolisher, right? Grand Abolisher is a card that has been played in the format since forever. People love to have it. The biggest reason for playing it usually is because your stuff can't get countered, right? Obviously, if your opponents can't cast spells on your turn, they're not going to be countering anything that you cast on your turn. That's really, really great to have, but it gets even better, and the reason why is because of the second ability. Whenever Mural, Shield of Argive attacks, create X 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens, where X is the number of soldiers you control. So why does this play into the first ability? Well, because now you don't have to worry about the blowout, the settle the wreckage or Aether Spouts effects that so many aggro themes should be at least worried about. You don't have to worry about it because your opponent can't cast spells on your turn, right? Any fog effect also not going to work here because your opponent can't cast spells on your turn. I guess Maze of Ith works here, right? Maze of Ith is not going to be affected by your commander's ability. However, that's only targeting one creature. Not going to really hurt you because you're in a go wide strategy. And that last ability, man, that can crank out those tokens fast. As I said again in my spoiler video, if I only have one other soldier in play, my commander is a soldier, I attack, I immediately get 2 more soldier tokens, and then the next turn I'm gonna get 4. So this gets out of hand really, really fast. Of course, soldier tribal is a very much supported theme in the format. There's tons of support there, a bunch more in this set as well. So this is going to be an easy commander to build around. How popular is this going to be? I don't know. I'm way off with my mono white commanders guessing how popular they're going to be. This is tribal though. Giada, Font of Hope is tribal and is currently the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. Is Mural gonna surpass it? Maybe, I don't know, or maybe it won't be very popular at all. I honestly can never tell with these mono white commanders now. Coming in at number 3, the Archa Mandrite, 2 blue, red and white human advisor 05. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand -4. Pretty great ability. It's essentially an ivory tower. So now you're just gaining life for having lots of cards in your hand. We can do all of the life gain support here, obviously. Well, Lost Dreams, great fit in this deck because now I'm going to draw cards off of the life gain, which means that I will then be gaining more life. That seems like a pretty good fit in this deck. Whenever you gain life, each advisor, artificer, and monk you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gained. Tap 3 untapped advisors, artificers, and or monks you control, draw a card. So it's funny, when I was doing my spoiler videos, I was talking about how like every commander in this set is an artificer. There's already a whole lot, and there also isn't really a whole lot of artificer tribal support, and we finally got one. Also, advisors. Advisor is actually a really popular tribe in the format. There's probably more out there than you would think. I think it's a little weird that they threw monk in here. I would actually like to have seen this just advisor and artificer. The monk seems like a weird inclusion. Tapping down your creatures to draw cards is obviously fantastic. I suppose if you're gaining like 4 or 5 life in a turn, right? So I gained 5 life at the beginning of my upkeep because of my commander's ability. Now my whole team, commander included obviously because that's an advisor, is is going to get vigilance and +5/+0 until end of turn. That's pretty fantastic, I think. You can even gain more life. So on my main phase, maybe I can cast some spells, gain some more life. You can really close out the game fast, even if you just have these little weenie creatures, right? Like artificers and advisors tend to be. Giving your whole team a +8 or +10/+0 bump is enough to very easily close out the game. This for sure is going to be a popular commander in the format, no doubt about it. Coming in at number 2 for me though is Mishra, eminent 1/2 blue, black, and a red human artificer 5/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of a target non-creature artifact you control, except its name is Mishra's Warform and it's a 4/4 construct artifact creature in addition to its other types. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I love everything that's going on in this card. It's very open-ended. There's a ton you can do with it. You're getting the trigger on your combat, which means immediately after I cast my Mishra on my first main phase, I will get that trigger. It is creating a token copy, which now I can do all of that whole token thing. It is turning a non-creature artifact into a creature, so I can do some shenanigans there. It gets haste, so obviously I can swing with it right away. And most importantly, it has that very important wording, sacrifice, at the beginning of the next end step. So now I can get those dies triggers if any of those artifacts like an Ichor Wellspring or a Mycosynth Wellspring, right, when they go to the graveyard, I'm getting a trigger off of them. I can do all that kind of fun stuff. This commander is a combination of all the things that I think people like when they're building around a commander, and it's also the combination of things that I like when building around a commander. So I think it's a really fun, interesting commander to build around, and I also think it's going to be one of those ones that people will go after because there is a lot of different directions you can go with it. Really fantastic commander in my opinion. But number 1 for me is going to be Ashnod the Uncaring, 2 blue, black and a red human artificer, 1/4 with death touch. Whenever you activate an ability of an artifact or creature that isn't a mana ability, if one or more permanents were sacrificed to activate it, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. So when I did the spoiler video on this, I said I think this probably will be the most popular commander from the set. I still think that. This is just such an open-ended ability. It is sacrifice tribal. I mean, as we've seen from Korvold, and I know it is a really big comparison to compare this with Korvold because Korvold obviously is a super busted commander, but there's a commander that when it came out, people probably didn't realize how good it really was. And then you start thinking, okay, well, sacrifice is so open-ended. There's so many different directions you can go with that because there's so many things that are sacrificing themselves, and all of that applies with Ashnod. Now, of course, Ashnod is only artifact or creature, so you can't be sacrificing like your fetch lands or anything like that. That's not going to work here. But of course, a whole bunch of other things will. It can't be a mana ability, so treasure tokens won't work here. Clue tokens will. You could just do an Ashnod the Uncaring investigate clue token theme if you want to. I don't know how much support there is there, but that will work because that is an artifact that you are sacrificing to activate, and then you can copy it. So every clue token that you sacrifice, you're going to get 2 card draws off of it. That's pretty great. But the sky's the limit here. Again, right? I mean, you can just start deep diving, and I'm sure a lot of people have, going into all the options of cards that are permanents that are sacrificing to activate abilities. There are thousands, I am sure. You just look at a Mind Stone, right? There's an artifact that you pay 1 and sacrifice to draw a card. Now you're going to get to copy it. I gave the example of Goblin Engineer, right? There is something that you pay red and tap, sacrifice an artifact to return an artifact with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So there's an activated ability that you are sacrificing a permanent. You're going to get to copy that. How about a Burnished Heart? You're sacrificing that to go get lands. So now you're going to be able to get 4 basic lands with your Burnished Heart. That seems pretty good, right? I mean, the sky is the limit here. This commander is hitting on all the important parts that I talk about when I'm talking about commanders that are popular in the format. It has a unique ability that we've never really seen before. It has a very open-ended ability that you can go in a lot of different directions with. And also it has a very powerful ability that you can probably do a lot of busted things with as well. I think this is probably going to be the most popular commander from the set in the entire format. I also think it's just a great commander all around. Also, I've been waiting for an Ashnod card since forever, so I'm happy to see one finally, and it's a great one. Certainly a fantastic commander. But that is all. Those are my picks for the top 10 commanders from Brothers War. What did I miss? Let me know in the comments below if there's any fantastic commanders that you think should have been on this list from the Brothers War set. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.